Developing right now on Morning News Now, conflict and confusion in the Middle East. New video from the Iranian regime claiming to show its troops seizing ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Now mounting concerns about a ceasefire extended indefinitely by President Trump and the possibility of peace talks, which are now at a standstill.
The president has not set a deadline himself. Ultimately, he will dictate the timetable. He understands that Iran is in a very weak position and the cards are in President Trump's hands right now.
Meanwhile, in Washington, Navy Secretary John Phelan fired over what multiple sources describe as growing tension with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And breaking overnight on Capitol Hill, major developments in the funding fight that shut down the Department of Homeland Security. We will bring you the latest. Also developing this morning, a state of emergency across the South. Crews in several states battling a series of fast-moving wildfires. And in other parts of the country, we're tracking another round of springtime storms. Angie's got your forecast. Plus, emergency exit. Spirit Airlines now close to securing a $500 million bailout deal with the Trump administration. What the rare move could mean for passengers. And the future of football has arrived. That's right, the NFL draft kicks off tonight in Pittsburgh. We'll have more on the league's top prospects as all 32 teams prepare to make their picks. Exciting day in sports.
In case the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs weren't enough for you, you also get an NFL draft for all the sports.
And I'm not missing a minute.
There you,
you know?
got all your brackets filled out, all your bets are in. Good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining us. We're going to begin this morning with the latest out of the Middle East. Iran attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday and seized 2 of them, despite President Trump extending the ceasefire with Iran indefinitely to give its leaders time to come up with a unified proposal.
Despite that, President Trump says the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports along the Strait of Hormuz will continue. And U.S. Central Command says the U.S. has turned around 31 ships, mostly oil tankers, since that naval blockade began. In response, Iranian officials argue the blockade violates that fragile ceasefire and jeopardizes potential future talks. Earlier this week, U.S. forces seized and boarded an Iranian ship that was linked to Tehran's oil trade. The White House doubled down on the blockade yesterday with President Trump telling Fox News that the blockade scares them even more than the bombing. We have a team of correspondents to break down the latest out of the Middle East and the political fallout here at home. Let's begin with NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. We're also tracking that leadership shakeup with the sudden ouster of the U.S. Navy Secretary at this moment when the Navy is playing a critical role in the war and enforcing the blockade on Iranian ports. That's at the center of rising tensions. Mounting uncertainty after President Trump said in a new interview he feels no time pressure about the ceasefire with Iran or holding another round of peace talks.
The president has not set a deadline himself. Ultimately, he will dictate the timetable.
While he waits, the president keeping up the blockade on Iranian ports. Central Command says U.S. forces have turned around 31 ships, mostly oil tankers, costing the regime an estimated $435 million a day.
We are completely strangling their economy.
Iran calls the blockade a breach of the ceasefire and says there will be no deal until it ends. The regime releasing video it claims shows Iranian forces, masked and armed, attacking 3 commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz, seizing 2 of them and forcing them into Iranian waters, according to Iranian state media. Now, even as the U.S. Navy is enforcing the blockade, a shakeup in leadership with Navy Secretary John Phelan out. NBC News learning overnight that tensions had been growing between Phelan and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, according to multiple sources familiar with the relationship. It comes just weeks after Hegseth forced out 3 high-ranking Army leaders, drawing sharp criticism from Democrats.
These guys are flailing, from the top down.
While on Capitol Hill, pressure is mounting for a vote to curb President Trump's war powers unless he gets approval from Congress before a fast-approaching 60-day deadline since the war began. The Senate rejected another war powers resolution just last night. Democrats are promising to keep trying until Republicans agree to public hearings on Iran, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to join talks in Washington today between Israel and Lebanon over that fragile ceasefire that's key to a broader peace deal. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Alice Barr in Washington. Thank you.
For more, let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter John Allen. John, good morning. So the U.S. Navy finds itself in the middle of its biggest military engagement in some time and finds itself without a civilian leader. What more do we know at this point about the cause of some of those tensions between the Naval Secretary, who's Phelan, and top officials at the Trump administration? And what are you hearing from people in Washington on it?
Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. Of course, doing continuing reporting on this story to find out as much as possible. But the key tension point, according to NBC sources, was between Deputy Secretary of War or Defense Stephen Feinberg and the Navy Secretary Phelan, who was struggling with him over the Golden Fleet, which is President Trump's plan to build battleships, a whole new class of battleships called the Trump class, and the speed with which that was going on and the way in which it was doing. And there were also some disagreements over how the Navy should be managed between those two and between Secretary Hegseth and Navy Secretary Phelan. So a lot still to unpack, but an interesting message the United States is sending with the firing of the Army Chief of Staff and the Navy Secretary within this window of a war going on.
John, let's talk about Capitol Hill. Just hours ago, the Senate took the first major step toward possibly ending that record-long shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security. It was a 50-48 vote to pass a budget resolution that would fund ICE and Border Patrol through the end of President Trump's term. Tell us, John, more about this marathon vote and just what it means for Democrats who were fighting to include ICE reforms, hoping the government shutdown would give them some sort of leverage.
Yeah, Joe, always fun to do Schoolhouse Rock with you, the bill sitting on Capitol Hill, and now all these minute steps through which policy can get made. I mean, the short answer is that there's still a lot of work to be done on two pieces, one of which is the effort by Republicans to forward fund essentially ICE and Customs and Border Protection for several years. And then the other piece, of course, opening up the closed parts of the Department of Homeland Security. A lot of votes still to be taken in the Senate and the House, if and when the House and Senate can get together. Democrats last night trying to amend this bill, trying to make some points about the things that they care about the reforms that they're looking to get made done. All those things were rejected, but let's hear Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on that topic.
Senate Republicans showed the American people where they stand. Not for families struggling with the high costs of child care, groceries, gasoline, but for pumping $140 billion towards rogue agencies. Republicans can rest assured that when reconciliation comes back up in a few weeks, they're going to have to face these votes again. Democrats are going to hold Republicans' feet to the fire.
And so there you hear Schumer talking about all the priorities that they say, that Democrats say that Republicans and President Trump have been ignoring, neglecting, or making worse in terms of the domestic economy. And at the same time, of course, moving to try to fund these agencies that have been the topic of tremendous controversy, essentially for the entirety of this year.
So, John, President Trump says he wants to see a budget passed by June 1st. Is it clear if House Republicans are on board with this two-track plan to fund DHS and then ICE and CBP through separate bills?
It's as clear as the D.C. swamp, Savannah. There is an effort afoot to put together a two-track plan, but it is not clear if and when the House will actually take up what the Senate is doing and whether or not the votes exist, particularly on this budget piece that would, again, forward fund those two controversial agencies. There are members of the House, Republicans in the House, who, like Senator John Kennedy in the Senate, have been concerned about it not having wider priorities for the president because they say that this is the last train moving out of the station and there won't be more opportunities to legislate before the midterm election. So generally speaking, you're likely to see Republicans vote for the narrower thing, even if it doesn't include everything they want, but we'll see.
All right, John Allen, thank you so much. Let's get you some weather, though. It may be early spring, but already in the Southwest, huge wildfires are now burning in several states. They have already damaged dozens of homes and forced thousands of people to evacuate throughout Florida and Georgia. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist is in Georgia and has the latest.
Firefighters on the front lines urgently racing to put out several blazes across the southeast, from the ground to the air. In Georgia, the fast-moving Brantley County fire forcing evacuations. School buses rushing to leave an elementary school with blackened, smoky skies nearby.
All their stuff's gone.
Residents capturing devastating images of what's left of their homes. Cars completely charred to ash. Officials say more than 50 houses have been destroyed, an estimated 1,000 now at risk.
Now we know that you've issued at least 2 mandatory evacuation orders. What's your message to people who may be hesitant to get out?
That's a great question, and I'll be honest with you. We cannot force these folks to leave even though we give a mandatory evacuation. It's a very serious situation where we have citizens that are in harm.
So thick you can't even see.
The smoke causing dangerous conditions on the roads, drivers turning around trying to escape the black plumes.
Officials here in Nahana have closed off several roads to keep people miles away from the fire zone, but you look up at the sky and you can see it's filled with that smoky haze. Firefighters taking to the skies, dropping gallons of water to fight multiple fires in Florida and out west in Montana. Communities already fighting an uphill battle as the 2026 fire season gets underway. This fire exploded from 700 to about 5,000 acres in less than a day's time. At one point, officials said they thought they had it contained, about 10 to 15% contained, but they're concerned that that number could go down because there are winds that are shifting in this area, and that could force the fire to jump fire lines. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
And the fire danger is still lingering this morning, while millions across the country brace for severe weather.
Now let's get a check on your morning news now weather with meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning to you. Let's start with those fires that, of course, Aaron was just highlighting across parts of the southeast. You can see multiple still burning across Florida and Georgia. We're going to start to see more air quality issues farther to the north across parts of Georgia today as that smoke starts to work its way into basically northern parts of Georgia, central Georgia, and into the Carolinas as well. You'll notice these unhealthy to even unhealthy to sensitive group values are going to be something that you'll see across this region. So heads up for that for folks that have any kind of respiratory issues. You're going to want to, of course, keep the windows closed and stay indoors as much as possible. Otherwise, we've got more chances for some of these fires to start across the middle of the country. 10 million people basically from border to border. So stretching from Texas all the way up into the Midwest and the northern plains. We've got 10 million people included in these red flag warnings as all the ingredients are once again there for us to see some of these fires start and spread quickly. We've got the wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. You can see the critical risk area stretching again from places like Goodland all the way down to El Paso. And we've also got really low relative humidity. We're talking single digit values for our humidity levels. So those two things, along with the dry vegetation, that's going to ramp up that potential to see some of those fires again start and spread throughout our day today. So we'll watch for that. We've also got kind of an active pattern setting up over the next couple of days when it comes to severe weather. Here's what your upper Midwest looks like right now. You can see a bit of rain north of Michigan. We've got some of that again across parts of Minnesota, back across the mountainous regions. We've got some additional snow and even rain falling. And we're really going to start to see things kind of focus across parts of the Midwest and stretching down to the south here as the day gets going and we get into the second half of our day. So 12 million people included in that risk area. You can see the greatest chance is that enhanced risk, Wichita right in the middle of that. But anywhere from Minneapolis down to Oklahoma City, you could see some of these stronger storms developing and spreading. We've got hail. We've got a tornado or two. We've got wind gusts that are going to be possible. And here's the culprit, that cold front where you can see kind of the storms ramping up from Minnesota to Kansas today. And then tomorrow it's on the move. So we're still going to have another chance of severe weather. Now it'll stretch from Texas to Missouri as we round out our work week. It doesn't look great if you live in the Great Lakes really either, or even down to the southeast. You're going to see some showers and some thunderstorms to finish your work week. And by Saturday, that front is kind of hugging the East Coast. So that means umbrellas are going to be out and hopefully handy. Any outdoor activities could be interrupted by those. We'll see some of these new thunderstorms, though, back across parts of the southern plains that could potentially be severe. So we'll keep we'll keep the kind of the milder conditions for right now, guys, because again, when we talk about temperatures behind that front, they're going to dip as well.
So not great in the Great Lakes, you said. So
yeah.
It's the Met Lakes.
It's a good way. It's a good way to put it. I like it. Right. I can't believe I never thought of that.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. All right. Well, 2 people were killed and nearly 30 more were injured after a chemical leak and explosion at an industrial plant in West Virginia yesterday morning. Investigative reporter Kimberly KG from our affiliate in Charleston has the details.
A frightening scene at a West Virginia refinery after a chemical leak turned deadly. Rescue teams in hazmat suits, emergency vehicles racing to the scene.
Yes, reports of 3 employees unresponsive.
According to authorities, it happened around 9:30 at the Ames Goldsmith Catalyst refiners in Kanawha County. They say the plant was in the process of shutting down its operations and that workers were in the middle of cleaning and decontaminating. And that's when they say a chemical reaction occurred, creating hydrogen sulfide.
What's called M2000A and nitric acid were mixed in a pump area. They're decommissioning the tank. That's when the explosion occurred and the leak.
2 people died as a result, and another person is currently in critical condition. Meanwhile, at least 19 others were either taken to the hospital or received medical treatment.
When the materials got together, they reacted violently and exposed the workers. It was an open vessel, and it reacted and released almost instantaneously.
The leak forced a shelter-in-place order for several hours in the community, which is also home to West Virginia State University. And first responders arrived just within minutes of the leak.
Other employees drug out the affected workers using respirators. Many of them had respirators.
Now, in a statement, the plant's president confirms the 2 deaths were employees, adding the company's thoughts and prayers are with them and their families, and that they are working closely with local, state, and federal agencies.
All right. Thanks to Kimberly for that.
In business news, troubled carrier Spirit Airlines is now in advanced talks with the Trump administration for a $500 million rescue package. The budget airline filed for bankruptcy twice in recent years. In March, Spirit said it would emerge from bankruptcy this summer, but the company is now also under pressure from those soaring jet fuel prices caused by the Iran war.
The deal still needs to be finalized and details have not been made public, but according to a source familiar with the matter, the U.S. government could potentially end up owning up to 90% of the airline. A spokesperson for Spirit did not comment on the talks.
Brooke DePalma joins us now to talk more about this. She's a senior reporter for Yahoo Finance. Good to have you with us. So first, walk us through the history. Why now twice Spirit has filed for bankruptcy, and now we have this new added chapter with the jet fuel prices. How much is that impacting Spirit?
Right. So Spirit Airlines has struggled for years now. The company has struggled to turn a profit since the COVID-19 pandemic. And then all eyes were focused on that potential merger that it had high hopes for with JetBlue. Then the Biden administration struck down that merger, citing that it violated antitrust laws. So then the company had to move on from that. But then on top of that, too, the company then had to file bankruptcy in 2024 of November. Then it filed again in August of 2025. And now that plan that it proposed back in March, well, it had jet fuel costs at $2.20. Obviously, since the start of this war, that has now doubled. And the company just can't raise prices fast enough in order to offset those costs. And on top of all this, Delta, American, United, they have gotten really good at offering those basic economy seats that maybe we're turning to instead.
Right. How could this $500 million bailout from the administration help turn things around for them?
Yeah, it's sort of a short-term fix to maybe a long-term problem. This won't fundamentally fix Spirit Airlines' problems at the end of the day of that low-cost model simply not working in this environment where there are just higher costs now. And so essentially this would help the company stay afloat in the near term. Also, this would save those 14,000 employees that work for Spirit Airlines. That's something that the administration cares deeply about. On top of all of this, we are hearing that airlines are cutting back capacity. So if Spirit Airlines goes under, that would further cut capacity, that would further impact Americans trying to travel and maybe even raise prices even further. That is something that this administration does not want.
Yeah, you thought planes were full now. So earlier this week, you know, President Trump expressed interest in this, speaking with CNBC. But then after that, we did hear from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, he spoke with Reuters saying that it could be using good money after bad. Talk about the risks here. If taxpayers are getting involved in this airline, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, if taxpayers are getting involved in a fundamentally failing business, then that would definitely not be good, because at the end of the day, this company would not be able to turn a profit even with this influx of capital. On top of that, too, you had United CEO sort of taking a jab at the company on their earnings call with investors on Wednesday, saying that well-run airlines are able to turn a profit in this environment with higher jet fuel costs. And so it's clearly showing that Spirit Airlines just isn't able to really find its way out of this, and maybe this wouldn't essentially fix the problem. On top of that, too, the sort of outcome that would be great in analysts' minds is that the government takes Spirit Airlines, then sells it to another low-cost airline. So think Frontier or Southwest. The problem, though, is that they're also struggling with higher jet fuel costs. And so really no clear outcome here, and that could be a big problem that taxpayers could care about, especially ahead of the midterm elections.
De Palma, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, risky bet, why experts are sounding the alarm on the kinds of ads running in some of the most popular podcasts.
Up first, though, after the break, new questions about the deaths of 2 CIA officers during an anti-drug operation in Mexico. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Israel is facing condemnation for a strike on southern Lebanon yesterday that killed a Lebanese journalist and wounded her photographer. The Lebanese health ministry says Amal Khalil and her photographer were covering the conflict with Hezbollah when an Israeli strike hit a vehicle in front of them. They both ran for cover to a nearby house, which was then hit by another Israeli strike. Lebanon's prime minister called it a war crime. Israel says the incident is under review. Khalil was one of 5 people killed in Lebanon on Wednesday in what was the deadliest day since the temporary ceasefire came into effect last week. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian has been in the area speaking with Lebanese people who have lost their homes and loved ones in the war.
Just minutes before the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon went into effect last week, Fadel Hijaz was sitting on his bed alongside his 8-year-old grandson in the southern Lebanese city of Tyre, preparing for sleep.
Everyone was up, laughing. The children, my wife, my daughter.
Moments later, his entire life changed. An Israeli airstrike blasting apart his home.
It felt like an earthquake hit me. Stones started falling over me.
The strike killing nearly every member of his family that was inside.
My wife is dead. My daughter is dead, along with her daughter and her son.
Beneath the rubble with his 8-year-old grandson, he didn't know which way was up or down. He says he was given no warning.
I don't understand why we were targeted. Everyone who was killed was a civilian unarmed.
Nearly 30 people died in this strike, according to local officials. The IDF has said they are only targeting Hezbollah and that the strikes are in response to Hezbollah attacks into Israel. Tyre is a Hezbollah stronghold with streets lined with their yellow flags and posters of Iran's fallen supreme leader.
We've lived through 50 years of wars and injustice, but nothing like this war has ever happened.
Just a few blocks away lives Fatima, a 28-year-old mother of 2 girls. She says last week she saw an IDF warning on Instagram that an attack could be coming. She evacuated shortly before a strike on her apartment. It was April 8th, considered by many in Lebanon to be the deadliest day of Israeli strikes since fighting broke out. They are still living there without exterior walls. The floors are covered with debris and dolls. Her family survived, but now Fatima is navigating how to raise her children with the scars of violence.
Now, whenever they hear a plane, they say, "Mom, the plane is coming to destroy our toys." I try to comfort them. I would tell them, if we leave, we're handing our home over to the Israelis.
Thank you. Thank you. Shukran.
Fatima and Fidel, neighbors in life and now neighbors in war.
Thanks to Yasmin for that report. Lebanon's president said his country would seek an extension to the ceasefire when Israeli and Lebanese officials meet today for another round of talks in Washington.
Closer to home, tensions are growing between the Trump administration and Mexico's president. Claudia Sheinbaum is launching an investigation into what happened during a major anti-narcotics operation where 2 American CIA officers died on the other side of the border. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez explains why their presence may have broken Mexican law.
This is what Mexican authorities say was a massive drug lab hidden in the woods. You can see rows of canisters, bags, and ovens, a rare look inside a secret meth lab in northern Mexico. What happened after the law enforcement operation is raising questions about U.S. involvement in the crackdown. A source with knowledge of the matter tells NBC News 2 CIA officers, along with 2 Mexican officials, died following the operation this weekend in a car accident. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is promising a thorough investigation, adding that while Mexico and the U.S. share intelligence, joint operations are not permitted under Mexican law. So far, she says, the information we have is that they were indeed working jointly. Let's put it that way. Late today, the White House responding.
I think the president always wants to see more cooperation when what we are doing is not only a benefit to the American people, but to her people as well, to crack down on these cartels.
The incident comes as President Trump has ramped up pressure on Mexico to target cartels, even previously suggesting the possibility of airstrikes within the country to stop them.
We have to eradicate them. We have to knock the hell out of them.
In response, Sheinbaum's government has extradited dozens of cartel suspects here to the U.S. And earlier this year, helped by U.S. intelligence, Mexican authorities killed a notorious drug lord, El Mencho. Back to you.
All right, Gabe, thank you.
Coming up on Morning News Now, Health Secretary RFK Jr. in the hot seat on Capitol Hill.
Other countries have outbreaks, which increases the likelihood they will bring that here, and our immunization rates have fallen below 95%.
We are laser focused on that.
Up next, more from yesterday's fiery hearings as the health secretary faces questions about his vaccine policy. We'll be right back. We are back with a look at the mounting pressure facing the Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again agenda. In 2 separate hearings yesterday, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was grilled by senators over his response to the growing measles outbreaks. He also faced questions about his vaccine policy and drug prices. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has the details.
You want a grandstand?
Can you answer?
I can answer that question.
Yes,
I didn't cause the measles epidemic. It started before I came in.
In 2 Senate hearings, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. deflected any blame for the nation's largest measles outbreak since the childhood disease was declared eliminated in 2000.
I had nothing to do with the measles outbreak here.
With vaccination rates declining, there have been more than 4,000 confirmed cases nationwide since 2025, more than 1,700 this year alone. 2 children in Texas died. A year ago, Kennedy, a vaccine skeptic, raising doubts about the shot's safety.
There are adverse events from the vaccine. It does cause deaths every year.
The secretary endorsing the same vaccine.
Are you taking the position, as your CDC director has taken, that the measles vaccine is vital to keeping American children healthy in this country? Are you taking that position? That has not been your position.
That's my position. We promote the measles vaccine.
The concern about vaccines bipartisan.
Are you taking steps now to ensure vaccine guidance is clear, evidence-based, and trustworthy, and what those steps would be?
Absolutely.
Republican Bill Cassidy, also a doctor and sometime Kennedy critic, focused on diseases that could come with World Cup fans.
You're pointing out that other countries have outbreaks, which increases the likelihood they will bring that here, and our immunization rates have fallen below 95%.
We are laser focused on that. We have booths and testing booths and institutions all over the games.
Ann Thompson, NBC News.
In recent years, gambling in teenage boys fueled by online platforms has become a major public health concern. Well, now a new report reveals how teens could be hearing ads for gambling through some of the most popular podcasts.
It comes from the nonprofit watchdog group Campaign for Accountability. The report found 44 out of the top 100 podcasts on YouTube have been running host-read ads for gambling and sports betting, which anyone can hear. This follows a separate survey last year, which found YouTube is the place where teen boys are most likely to see gambling ads.
Dr. Michelle Chung, a licensed clinical psychologist, joins us now to break down this new study. She's the founder of In Practice Psychology Group and co-founder of the nonprofit Modern Approach to Parenting. Dr. Chung, thank you so much for being here. So this report, it says 53% of the top YouTube podcasts with host-read ads promoted at least one online gambling sponsor in the past year. But then look at these other numbers. That jumps to 66% for shows hosted by men, 83% for sports podcasts, and a staggering 93% for podcasts hosted by male stand-up comedians. I think kind of the idea here is that a lot of those audiences are going to be young males. How could those ads influence those particular listeners to potentially start online gambling or that sports betting?
Well, this isn't just about advertising or entertainment. It really becomes about influence. There's a social modeling that happens here. And these podcasts are just opening these gates where kids can get exposure, and they're hearing it from people that they've grown to trust. And when you hear it, especially a lot of these podcasts are doing it, podcasters are doing it with their own voices. And so they're hearing it from these people that they trust, that they know. And after a while, it doesn't start to feel like an advertisement. To the adolescent brain, it feels like an endorsement.
We mentioned this report found that kids of any age could actually hear these host-read ads. YouTube's policies say content promoting online casino sites is age restricted. We also know in response to this report, YouTube said it was committed to rigorously enforcing its gambling policies and would be closely reviewing the content that was identified. In your opinion, what should the platform be doing to try and curb this exposure to children and to teens?
I think there definitely are better ways that they could be paying attention to the age gating, right? How much exposure, whether it's the podcasters and advertisements, or even just the content of what the podcast is talking about, how much of that is being actually filtered out for younger teens? Because you're right, there are a lot of people who are able to, the accessibility is just too easy. And I really do think, quite like alcohol or vaping or tobacco, there could be some information or disclosures, maybe disclaimers that could be out there on, on these podcasts or close to where the advertisements are being placed that says, hey, this is something that could be a behavior, a compulsion. This is something that we need to be careful of.
Dr. Chung, it's impossible for parents to monitor everything their teen watches, though some may try. But how can they attempt to get ahead of this before it potentially does translate into an actual behavior, into getting into that betting?
Now, I don't want parents to feel afraid here, but I do want parents to be aware. It really starts with information. How, as parents, can you get this conversation going with your child? You want to make sure that you open the topic and the conversation in a way that it's not judgmental. We just want to enter the conversation with curiosity and say, hey, I noticed that there's a lot of advertisements, maybe a lot of conversations here about sports betting, about online gambling. Have you noticed that too? And just open it up with that. And you want to give them the information and say, hey, do you know that as a teenager, your brain is wired for rewards? It's not wired to look out for risks. And it might feel like, oh, these podcasters, they're talking about this in a way that seems fun, that seems like, oh, we're going to be able to win. But hey, the odds are stacked against us here. And just give them that information so that they can go into those situations knowing.
Ads are...
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, no one likes to be manipulated, right?
Right. And ads are just one chapter of the fact that just gambling is so much more accessible in the last. People don't get addicted to gambling at a young age.
You're right. Casinos, you would have to actually get there,
Yeah.
right? You'd have to go someplace. Now it's just right in your pockets, and it is so accessible. So really being able to put some sort of again, like the age gating, right? I think that is really incredibly important. Like how, whether it's putting filters as from the parent side on your devices, on certain websites, you want to make sure that these are some clean runways for our kids to be able to get less accessibility and less exposure to some of these advertisements. And the more and more that it seems normal, the more and more that these kids' brains look at it as, oh, this is something that is okay, right? So absolutely, we want to make sure that we're on top of and noticing what our kids are listening to, what they're being exposed to.
All right, Dr. Michelle Chung, really important conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.
The future of the NFL is finally here. Later tonight, the first round of the NFL draft will kick off in Pittsburgh, welcoming the newest stars into professional football.
This will mark the very first time Pittsburgh has hosted the annual draft. Over the next few days, more than 200 names will get the call that will give them a chance to play in the big leagues. But of course, only one will go down in history as the first overall pick.
NBC News sports reporter Rohan Nadkarni joins us now with a full preview of tonight's draft. Rohan, good to have you with us. We know it's widely expected the LA Raiders, they've got pick number 1. They'll pick Fernando Mendoza, who led Indiana to that national championship this past season. How will he fit into that team? And just what does history tell us about the last few quarterbacks to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that Fernando Mendoza is kind of a high floor prospect, is the way a lot of people have described him. He's someone who should be a very confident NFL player, for lack of a better phrase, right now. I think the Raiders have done a really good job surrounding him with pieces that would make him successful, right? They went out and signed the highest paid center in free agency. They signed a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins just to kind of give him infrastructure to grow into that role. I would say the history with number one quarterbacks is complicated. A lot of them are very good. About 1 in 3 since 1970 have made a Super Bowl, so that's great if you're a Raiders fan. On the flip side, some of those guys do it with their second team. You look at what Matthew Stafford did with the LA Rams. It took him a little while to have kind of that postseason success. So it's all over the map in terms of number one quarterbacks, but I think Fernando Mendoza is someone who people see as a very kind of high floor prospect.
What are some of the other names that we might see taken in the top 10?
Yeah, I think some really interesting names. Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, has set off this whole debate about basically, well, how high do you take a running back? I mean, he's someone who people have said could go as high as number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals there. The Kansas City Chiefs were a team that were in the mix for Jeremiah Love, but they went out and signed a running back in free agency. Reuben Bain Jr. is another name I would keep an eye on. He's kind of the ultimate production versus measurables prospect. He was playing against Fernando Mendoza in the national championship game. He was great in college. People are really concerned about his arm length. He would be one of the shortest armed prospects at his position taken in the last 25 years.
You know, there are the obvious choices, and then there's always the potential of having a future superstar who's selected outside of the first round. Of course, we always talk about Tom Brady or Russell Wilson. You know, if you knew the answer to this, I'm guessing you'd be running an NFL team right now. But are there any names who might fall to later rounds who could have a huge impact down the line on their teams?
Absolutely, Joe. Speaking of the Tom Brady, Russell Wilson types, let's talk about quarterbacks. I think the interesting names there, Ty Simpson. He went to Alabama, was kind of a prospect people had their eye on headed into the season. He struggled down the stretch. He only has 1 year starting experience. What do people expect from him? He could go as high as 13. Some people say he could go in the second or third round. Drew Aller is another guy, but kind of the classic quarterback archetype, big guy, big arm. He got injured during his senior season. I'm really interested to see which teams are going to step up and kind of take the risk on guys like that.
Rohan, which teams do you expect to make the most moves during this draft? Who's got the most to gain in this offseason?
Yeah, one team I really am keeping my eye on, the Miami Dolphins. They have a completely new regime in there. They have 7 picks in the top 100, so they have a lot to deal with, right? They can move back and pick up even more. They can group some of those together and move up. They're a team they haven't won a playoff game in over 2 decades. They've brought in basically a bunch of people from the Green Bay Packers to come and fix what's been going on in Miami for the last couple of decades. So really interested to see what that regime does with this first draft. They have a lot of ammo to move around. Will they try to collect more picks? Will they try to gamble on someone? That's a team that really wants to make a quick turnaround. Very interested in what they do with all those picks.
All right. Rohan, good to have you with us as always. Thank you so much.
Coming up on Morning News Now, a pie in the sky, literally.
It's definitely a trial and error kind of thing. You know, we have to make sure it gets to its destination warm, hot, and crunchy.
Up next, we're going to take you to New Jersey, where one company is serving up a slice of the future. We'll be right back.
I'm going to end this hour with a high-tech service that's quite literally taken flight in New Jersey for the first time in the Northeast. The first autonomous pizza delivery by drone was completed in the Garden State this week.
You know what they say, when the pie hits the sky, that's amore. So if you're wondering if you can get your favorite slice delivered by drone, how it all works, reporter Adam Harding from NBC New York dishes out the details.
Lift off. It launched in front of a crowd of curious fans. You're looking at what's being called New Jersey's first pizza delivery by drone. It happened in Montville.
We're big pizza lovers.
Anthony Pizzi helped set up the showcase. He invited local shops and pizza lovers alike to get a taste of how robotics and AI are moving in on dinner.
The biggest thing we always hear from shop owners is, you know, pizza gets delivered and it's cold. If there was only a way for it to get quicker than 30 minutes, right? A drone can get from point A to point B probably in less than 15 minutes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. Everything cheesy and saucy.
The drone was designed by the company Dexa, based in Ohio. The company needed FAA certification to make this happen. Believe it or not, they're actually considered an airline. So it's not pie in the sky wishful thinking. This is actual pie in the sky reality.
The future is here, the future's now, and it's going to happen today.
Right now, the technology is somewhat limited. Today, the boxes were on the smaller size, just 8 by 8, and there's a 4-pound limit. The company says the drones can operate with winds up to 35 miles per hour, and they're working on new drones to carry larger pizzas. Why should consumers be excited about this?
It's going to be faster, which means fresher for your food. It's going to get to you in a green way. It's going to be in a non-congested route, and it's going to be hotter than you would receive from some other delivery method.
The company says the idea here is simple. They can get you the food faster and deliver it hotter. But right now, it's not widely available.
I think it's definitely a trial and error kind of thing. You know, we have to make sure it gets to its destination warm, hot, and crunchy.
Critics worry more machines could mean less people. But experts say no matter how you slice it, there's no getting around the tech advancements, even when it comes to something as simple as pizza.
This technology's here, and we want people to start adopting it, and we want to make New Jersey like the Silicon Valley for pizza in the United States.
Our thanks to Adam Harding for that report. Well, the 3 pizza pies were delivered in just a matter of minutes. So if you're in the Garden State, be on the lookout for more drones in the future.
Can they do deep dish?
Yeah.
Like that's, or
True.
pizza larger than a
Right.
personal pan pizza?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe not for a Super Bowl party. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for being with us this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, states of emergency, the race to contain those fast-moving wildfires torching thousands of acres across the southeast. Folks living in parts of Georgia and Florida forced to evacuate only to return to devastation. Harrowing stories of survival as emergency crews fight back against an unrelenting Mother Nature. Also this morning, out of office, a major move among the military's top brass. Navy Secretary John Phelan fired effective immediately. Sources now telling NBC News the firing comes after his relationship with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth became increasingly tense. The fallout echoing throughout Washington as that naval blockade in the Middle East throttles commerce from Iranian ports. Those shockwaves felt at airports from coast to coast, oil uncertainty driving up fees for millions of flyers ahead of the bustling summer travel season. And now, Spirit Airlines might be looking for some help from the Trump administration, but could a proposed $500 million bailout bring relief to wallet-weary passengers? And later in the hour, do not disturb why more young people across America are putting down their phones on a quest for tech-free get-togethers that are boasting a different kind of FaceTime. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about the rise or the decline in house parties. And one of the main reasons was people have their phones. You don't know what pictures they're going to take, if it's going to be posted online. So why not just have a phone-free party?
I mean, I love it.
There we go.
You actually talk to each other.
Exactly. We'll dig into that a little later. Let's begin this hour with the wildfires burning across the southeast and out west. Nearly 12 million people are under red flag warnings as dry air and gusty winds threaten communities in at least 4 states. In Montana, at least 185 homes are under a mandatory evacuation order. Crews there are working to bring a fast-moving fire that has already burned more than 1,600 acres there under control. Well, in Arizona, officials shut off power to around 6,000 customers in the Flagstaff area because of high fire risk from extreme winds. Several buildings near Tucson were destroyed by flames earlier this week.
But the hardest hit state so far, that's Georgia, where the situation, it's just getting worse. The governor has declared a state of emergency and ordered mandatory evacuations after dozens of buildings were damaged in the southern part of the state. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist is in Brantley County, Georgia, with the very latest. Aaron, good morning.
Officials here have locked down this area. They've even pushed us farther away, and they've told people who live in some of the evacuation zones to get out quickly after the fire grew in size nearly 7 times bigger in just a day's time. Now, since last week, more than 90 wildfires have started statewide, leading to a total ban on burning anything outside.
This morning, wildfire season in the southeast, with flames raging across multiple states, forcing evacuation orders and destroying dozens of homes.
It is burning.
A state of emergency in Georgia, where fire quickly spread in the southern part of the state. Smoke and haze even reaching hundreds of miles away to Atlanta. Georgia issuing its first ever burn ban.
All of Georgia is in a severe drought right now.
In Brantley County, one fire decimating 5,000 acres.
This is very dynamic, very fluid, so it's moving and the threat moves with it.
Some returning to their homes to find nothing but devastation.
Yeah, all their stuff's gone. Lucky's. That's her mama's home right there.
Isaac Wilcox tried to save his aunt's neighbor's house.
I was spraying it as much as I could, and then I just threw the water hose on top of it and then ran because it was bad.
Officials saying more than 50 homes have burned and 1,000 more are at risk.
What's your message to people who may be hesitant to get out?
We cannot force these folks to leave even though we give a mandatory evacuation. It's a very serious situation where we have citizens that are in harm. Fortunately, so far, when it's gotten really hot, they've left.
Crews battling low visibility from thick plumes of smoke as firefighters work toward containment from the ground and sky. The situation is bad in neighboring northern Florida, too, with over 100 wildfires and crews working to contain the flames.
Back here in Georgia, we know crews spent the overnight hours deep in the woods trying to fight the fire here. State officials saying containment is at about 15% now. We do expect to get more updates from incident commanders throughout the day. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
More on the fires and just the severe weather across the country. Let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Angie, good morning. What can we expect today?
Morning, guys. We can expect more concern for the fires across the southeast. We've got the potential for more of those fires across the middle of the country, and we've got that severe weather that you mentioned. Let's start with the southeast, where you just heard Aaron talking about really the concern that they have and the ongoing conditions across this region. And notice there's a whole lot of fires still burning. We've got more than half a dozen, and this is going to be an ongoing issue with these winds kind of carrying more of this poor air quality farther to the north as that smoke spreads. So this is a concern for folks that maybe have respiratory issues. You can see wherever you see that kind of yellow is where we'll have moderate air quality conditions. And then places like Macon and Augusta, you're expecting unhealthy but for sensitive groups. And then Columbia, South Carolina, unhealthy air quality today. So a heads up, we'll see kind of those hazy conditions in some of these spots because of those ongoing fires farther to the south. Meanwhile, across the middle of the country, stretching from Texas all the way up into Minnesota, we've got 10 million people under these red flag warnings. So what that means is all the ingredients are there for us to see fires start and spread quickly. And we're most concerned about areas really stretching from north of Goodland all the way down to El Paso, where we've got that critical risk of fire weather. We've got low humidity values. Some locations could even see single-digit values as far as humidity goes. And then we've got wind gusts likely up to 30, 40 miles per hour. So those, along with some dry vegetation, not what you want to see when it comes to fire conditions. So we'll be watching that. Also, we've got the potential for severe weather. So let's just kind of look at where we stand so far this year for tornado season. You can see we're at 120% of the 17-year average. What does that mean? It means we've had a whole lot of tornadoes, 476 reported across the states that you see in red. But we're specifically really impressed by the fact that most of this season's activity has been across parts of the Midwest. So you've got Illinois and Wisconsin with 35 tornadoes reported so far in Wisconsin, 106 already in Illinois. Much of this is because of how warm it's been. These numbers are well above average for these locations at this point in the year. And a lot of that is attributed to how warm it's been, leaving us with the well above average conditions for tornado activity across the Midwest. So what does this mean going forward from today through the next couple of days? It means that yet again, we're going to see the potential for some of these severe storms. Not all that impressive right now on your upper Midwest radar. We've got a line of thunderstorms working across Minnesota, some snow back to the west. But today we're going to watch for areas stretching from Minneapolis down to south of Wichita for, again, the chance to see some of those stronger storms. So still centered across parts of the Midwest, 12 million people in total, the hail, the tornadoes, wind gusts, all possible. And this storm system that we're tracking today is going to bring us another chance of that for tomorrow, guys. We'll see those severe risks, the area of severe risk shift a little farther to the east, and then some rainy conditions across parts of the East Coast on Saturday. So busy indeed, but really impressive across the Midwest when it comes to tornadoes so far this season.
People need to be on alert.
Indeed.
All right, thanks, Angie.
Thank you. Well, let's move now to the latest out of the Middle East. Marine traffic data shows that traffic in the Strait of Hormuz is at an almost total standstill this morning after Iran attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday and seized 2 of them. Now, despite President Trump extending that ceasefire with Iran indefinitely, the president says the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports along the Strait of Hormuz will continue as U.S. Central Command says the U.S. has turned around 31 ships, mostly oil tankers, since the naval blockade began. But in response, Iranian officials argue the blockade violates the fragile ceasefire and jeopardizes potential future talks. NBC News International correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest. Molly, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. That's right. Iran this morning is flexing its control over the Strait of Hormuz, claiming to have collected its first toll from a ship transiting. Meanwhile, Pakistani and U.S. officials met this morning in Islamabad. Apparently, that meeting saw positive progress. There are no public signs, though, that negotiations are imminent.
This morning, the battle continues for control over the Strait of Hormuz while President Trump still pushes for a deal. After Iranian media published this highly produced video that it claimed showed the interception and seizure of 2 cargo ships, tracking a speedboat flying the Iranian flag, commandos in masks scaling the ship with a ladder and boarding it. The White House saying the attacks don't violate the president's newly extended ceasefire and don't threaten his blockade.
These were not U.S. ships. These were not Israeli ships. These were 2 international vessels. They don't have control over the strait. This is piracy that we are seeing on display.
Overnight, CENTCOM announcing they've turned back 31 ships as part of the U.S. naval blockade imposed by President Trump. But as long as it remains in place, Iranian officials say they won't negotiate. The Iranian president posting overnight, bad faith, siege, and threats are the main obstacles to genuine negotiation. But President Trump has given no timeline for his ceasefire extension, telling Fox News yesterday there was, quote, no time pressure around the ceasefire or setting a date for new talks, and, quote, no time frame to bring the war to an end. The Trump administration also not giving a clear answer on when Americans may see some relief from those high gas prices driven up by the war. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent grilled on Capitol Hill yesterday about when prices, now averaging over $4 a gallon, may go down.
That is path dependent on when the war and the conflict end.
As the conflict, now centering over the world's major oil passageway, continues.
Also in Washington today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio holding the second round of direct talks between Israel and Lebanon. Now, the Lebanese president has announced his main goal for these talks, and that is the Israeli troops withdrawing from southern Lebanon. Savannah?
All right, Molly, thank you.
Let's move now to a major shakeup at the Pentagon. The Navy Secretary John Phelan has been ousted from his job. His departure comes amid shaky ceasefire negotiations with Iran as the U.S. Navy continues to blockade Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now from Washington with the latest. Gabe, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning. This is the latest in a string of firings at the Pentagon, and it came as a surprise to many in Congress. Now, multiple sources say tensions had been mounting between John Phelan and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth well before the war. With a fragile ceasefire in place and with the U.S. enforcing a naval blockade of Iranian ports, this morning Navy Secretary John Phelan is out, effective immediately. A Pentagon spokesman adding, "We wish him well in his future endeavors."
It's an honor to sit before you as the nominee for Secretary of the Navy.
Before taking the job just 13 months ago, Phelan was a Florida businessman and a major donor to President Trump's campaigns. He had never served in the military. This past December, he appeared with the president at Mar-a-Lago to announce a new class of battleships bearing Trump's name.
John Phelan is one of the most successful businessmen in the country, in our country. It's been a tremendous success.
Overnight, NBC News learned tensions between Phelan and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had been mounting, according to multiple sources familiar with the relationship. The approach Phelan was taking when it came to shipbuilding appears to have been the main reason for the firing, multiple sources say. A senior administration official telling NBC News President Trump and Secretary Hegseth agreed new leadership at the Navy is needed. Replacing him as acting head of the Navy will be Undersecretary Hung Cao, a combat veteran who ran unsuccessful campaigns for the House and Senate in Virginia. It's the latest shakeup at the Pentagon, coming just weeks after Hegseth forced out the Army's top uniformed officer and 2 other Army generals.
This creates a real chilling effect in our military, and it's downright dangerous to be doing this in the middle of a war.
3 people familiar with the matter say Phelan did not know he was being fired until he saw that social media post from the Pentagon spokesman announcing his departure. But a senior administration official says Phelan was notified ahead of time. We reached out to him for comment, and his representatives referred us back to the Pentagon, Joe.
All right, Gabe, thank you.
On Capitol Hill, America's top health official Robert F. Kennedy Jr. once again faced tough questions from lawmakers. Senators grilled Kennedy in 2 separate hearings yesterday on everything from vaccines and drug prices to the decades-high measles outbreak. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joins us with the details. Ann, good morning.
Hey there, this was Kennedy's 7th hearing in 4 days. The topic was supposed to be the Health and Human Services budget. But on the final day of this marathon, Kennedy, a well-known vaccine skeptic, faced numerous questions about measles and the growing epidemic more than 25 years after the disease was said to be eliminated in this country.
Every Democrat in this committee, all they wanted to do was talk about measles.
With the nation in its 2nd year of a measles outbreak, 1,700 cases and counting this year alone, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle pummeled HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with questions about the spread and the vaccine that can stop it.
Can you please tell us here today what you're going to do to reduce the number of measles cases and improve the MMR vaccination rate?
Improve the MMR. We promote the MMR. We advise every child to get the MMR. That's what we do.
A change from the man who for years sowed doubts about vaccines.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
While some Republicans defended the secretary,
we would not be on the right side of this outbreak without your leadership.
Others concerned about Kennedy's vaccine stances, particularly as millions from around the world are expected in the U.S. this summer for the World Cup.
I am a guy who has seen people die from vaccine-preventable diseases.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy is a doctor and frequent Kennedy critic.
Tourists from all over the world will come to the United States. Unfortunately, some of them will bring vaccine-preventable diseases like measles. And unfortunately, our measles immunization rates have fallen.
We are laser focused on that. We have booths and testing booths and institutions all over the games.
And Kennedy endorsed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's decision to no longer require the flu vaccine for U.S. troops.
Secretary Hegseth was just recognizing that these soldiers being sent over to fight for our freedoms and that they should have some freedom too.
Since becoming health secretary, Kennedy has been focused on ultra-processed foods. Senator Bernie Sanders asked RFK Jr. if he would be in favor of banning so-called junk food ads on TV, similar to when Congress banned tobacco ads in the 70s. Kennedy suggested he could support such a move, but also seemed to imply he'd prefer it be voluntary. Back to you.
All right, and thank you. The online prediction market Kalshi is taking steps to tackle insider trading by politicians on its platform. The company fined and suspended 3 congressional candidates for betting on their own elections during the primaries. Now, Kalshi said it reached settlements with candidates from Minnesota and Texas, but it fined one Democratic Senate candidate from Virginia more than $6,000. NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal breaks down what happened. Ali, good morning.
Hey there. Good morning. Really interesting development in the world of prediction markets. We did hear from that one candidate, Mark Moran. He is running for that Democratic Senate seat in Virginia. And he said that he meant to do this, that he purposely placed a $100 bet on himself and that he wanted to get caught. He's arguing that Kalshi is inconsistent in how it enforces its rules. He even invoked the First Amendment, saying that the platform tried to pressure him into making a public statement as part of this settlement, adding that Kalshi has essentially turned this entire situation into a PR move. So instead of apologizing, he's really doubling down here, saying that this proves his broader point that Kalshi is a flawed and potentially corrupt marketplace. And if you zoom out, whether or not you trust Mark Moran's words there, a lot of states have taken issue with Kalshi, these prediction markets at large, saying that they are illegal. There's been several civil lawsuits. Arizona has actually filed criminal charges. And I think this speaks to some of the blind spots here. So in terms of oversight, platforms like Kalshi, they operate under federal regulation under the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So they don't have to abide by those state-by-state gambling laws. And that's where a lot of the tension points lie. And while the CFTC says that they regulate this kind of these kind of things, that they're constantly looking for insider trading, it's really hard. And Kalshi has essentially been policing itself, and they have taken action. They have been suspending accounts. They've been opening investigations, but there's no clear tailored rule book here, especially as prediction markets really sit at the intersection of gambling, finance, politics. So there's still a lot that's evolving here and will continue to evolve, especially as the money just keeps pouring in. But I mean, we have midterms coming up, and there are a lot of eyes on these prediction sites and how they really should be looked at and regulated when it comes to potential elections and the outcomes here.
All right, Ali Canal, thank you.
We've got much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why more and more young people are looking for a night out without their phones.
First, after the break, turbulent times for Spirit Airlines, reportedly close to a deal with the Trump administration for a $500 million bailout. But could that actually save some passengers some money amid all this war uncertainty? We're going to take a closer look next.
Welcome back with the summer travel season right around the corner. Many families may have to shell out even more than what they were expecting.
Yeah, that's because of the soaring cost of jet fuel caused by the ongoing Iran war. Several airlines say they're being forced to raise prices, with one even potentially seeking a bailout from the U.S. government. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us now to tell us what this means for consumers. Brian, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. For weeks, we've seen many airlines raising baggage fees and cutting flights from their schedules. Now the Trump administration may come to the rescue of one airline that's struggling to overcome financial hurdles, which is a move that could bring relief to consumers but cost taxpayers.
Flight prices right now are crazy.
This spring, passengers are fed up with soaring prices as airlines raise flight costs and fees ahead of the summer travel season.
And apparently, they're only going to get higher from here on out.
Just this week, United CEO confirming price increases are here to stay.
I think it's probably the new normal for airfares.
Other carriers in the industry doing the same. In addition to United, Delta, JetBlue, Southwest, and Alaska Airlines have already raised fees for checked bags. And some of those airlines are cutting flights from their schedule as well. It's all a result of the ongoing war in Iran, as oil tankers blockaded in the Strait of Hormuz continue to strangle global supplies, causing jet fuel prices to spike and companies to pass those higher costs onto consumers.
We're looking at more than 10% fare increases, summer over summer. So I'm really concerned that this is going to get worse.
But one company struggling more than others, Spirit Airlines. The Trump administration is working on a rescue deal to help the struggling budget airline. While not finalized, a source familiar with the matter telling NBC News the deal would provide $500 million to help the airline emerge from bankruptcy and deal with elevated fuel costs. And once it does, that same source says the U.S. government could own up to 90% of the airline. Is that going to be good or bad for the prices that consumers pay for flying?
I think this is good news because anytime you have a low-cost carrier in the market, your average airfare is going to be lower. I'm not sure this is such a great deal for the U.S. taxpayer. We could see a sort of a conga line of airlines going to the government now and saying, hey, jet fuel prices are high for us. We need a bailout as well.
We reached out to Spirit Airlines on this possible bailout deal. A spokesperson declined to comment, but they did mention it's business as usual for the airline and, quote, guests can continue to book travel and use tickets.
So if you do have a Spirit Airlines flight booked or you're thinking about buying one because the route works best for you, I mean, is there something to be nervous about or what's your advice?
Well, Clint Henderson told us straight up that he would not buy a Spirit Airline ticket right now with all this uncertainty.
Would he before, though?
But that's a fair question. But let's say, for example, you already had something booked or you're looking at potentially booking something because it's like the only option out there. Basically, you can book your flight, and if the flight does get canceled, that will give you the most flexibility for getting some sort of refund or a credit at least. But we should point out, if a company goes bankrupt, the people and consumers that have tickets are not going to get paid out. It's basically a 0% chance that you're going to get your money back. And so for that reason, if you do book something, try to use a travel credit card that gives you the protection if a company goes out of business, that you can at least get refunded by the credit card company. Again, not all credit cards offer that, but it's at least one layer of protection with all this uncertainty out there.
I'm having flashbacks. When I was in college, I had a Pan Am ticket. And it declared bankruptcy like a week before my ticket. And
wow.
It's like, I guess I'm going home now, not going on spring break.
Booking travel is already complicated enough. Now you got to worry about things like that. Exactly. It's crazy.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yep. All right. Coming up, we're taking a deep dive into the fallout from all those DOGE cuts 1 year later.
When we come back, the former federal workers still out of a job months after Elon Musk's federal foray was broken up. That's next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. You'll remember hundreds of thousands of federal workers were fired last year when the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE, went on a cost-cutting spree. The federal agency, it was headed by Elon Musk. It was eventually dismantled, but its impacts are still being felt today. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach spoke to some of the people whose lives were upended by the cuts.
Unless I miscut this, in which case.
John Berg felt like he was on top of the world.
My friends call me the king of Tacoma Park.
The longtime Maryland resident worked for the Treasury Department in Iraq, served with the U.S. Agency for International Development in Afghanistan, and taught residents of Senegal how to repair their bikes. More than 2 decades of doing this kind of work, it ended with a phone call.
Correct, in 24 hours.
Berg's work with USAID came to an end on January 31st, 2025.
Dramatic changes are happening at USAID.
Berg's world turned upside down by the Trump administration's shuttering of USAID. But he quickly got back on his feet and started applying to jobs. Lots of jobs.
I stopped recording applications in my spreadsheet because it would have been too depressing to actually hit 600.
He's become a general contractor, a Mr. Fix-It for his neighborhood.
Balancing on ladders with a nail gun and holding lumber up with one hand and a nail gun in the other. There's really no time or opportunity to be depressed. You really have to stay focused and just get work done.
During the Department of Government Efficiency's reduction of the federal workforce, it's estimated that more than 300,000 federal workers and contractors lost or voluntarily left their jobs across the country. Dave Harbort is another. He was let go from his job at the FDA last April.
It's really terrifying as a parent to feel that you've suddenly lost your ability to provide for your family.
After countless applications, Harbort found a job. Better than nothing, he says, but not ideal.
I now work as an independent safety contractor, just coming home from a job at a work site in Kansas.
He now travels to work sites around the country, having to leave home sometimes for weeks at a time.
It's hard as a parent to be away from your kids and your spouse.
NBC News spoke to more than a dozen former federal workers and contractors. More than half remain unemployed. Several had to pick up side hustles, paying them significantly less than they used to make. And nearly a third said they had to move to find a job.
There's been this relentless focus on efficiency. So let me not expand my workforce. Let me focus on what I can do with the workforce that currently exists. And that has really been driving a lot of this slowdown.
Back in Tacoma Park, Berg is thinking about the impacts of the layoffs in a greater sense.
It was an organization filled with passionate, hardworking people who did their absolute best on behalf of this country for the benefit of people around the world.
Working anywhere they can to make the world a better place. Gary Grumbach, NBC News, Tacoma Park, Maryland.
All right, let's get a closer look at what else is making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a new budget plan clearing the Senate early this morning.
NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us again from Washington with details here. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. President Trump, as you know, wants to jack up spending for ICE and Border Patrol so that he can continue his mass deportation campaign. Well, early this morning, while most folks were sleeping, the Senate took its first major step to give him his wish. It's a complex process, but one Republicans say they are confident they can navigate quickly. Voting 50 to 48, the Senate adopted a new budget plan focused on pumping as much as $140 billion into those two agencies. Two Republicans, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Rand Paul of Kentucky, joined Democrats in opposing the measure. And there's still a lot of work ahead for Republicans. Most of it hinges on ifs. They can run a Democratic filibuster if the House adopts the same budget plan, and if the two chambers can then agree to the same filibuster-breaking reconciliation bill. And if that second bill complies with the Senate rules, lots of ifs there. On the other side of the Capitol, the House is facing yet another vacancy. Democratic Congressman David Scott, who became the first black chairman of the Agriculture Committee earlier in his career, has died. The 80-year-old Scott had represented an Atlanta area seat since 2003. His death brings to 13 the number of representatives who have died or resigned since the start of last year. And now the House has 217 Republicans, 212 Democrats, and one independent who caucuses with Republicans. Under Georgia law, there will be a 40-day period between now and when a special election can be held. And guys, breaking just now, medical marijuana getting a major boost from the Justice Department. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signing an order to reclassify medical-grade pot this morning. It won't make the drug legal, but it will loosen regulations so marijuana isn't treated the same way as harder drugs like heroin. It's a few days late for 420, but it'll be welcomed by the marijuana community all the same. Back to you guys.
Yeah, 420 seems like that would have been the day to do it, but you know, it's 420-ish.
Close enough.
Cypress Hill is happy. Yeah. A lot of my friends are happy.
No surprise.
Some of my kids'
delayed.
friends are happy.
All right.
Thanks, John. Coming up, we're almost to the weekend, and if you're still looking for plans, we might have you covered.
Yeah, and we come back, why more young people are starting to ditch their phones at late-night get-togethers for an experience that's a little more human. We'll explain. We're back with a look at a new film that is stirring up controversy in Hollywood. The new Michael Jackson biopic called Michael is set to premiere this weekend. Fans of Jackson consider it an homage to the King of Pop, but some critics say the film is just too focused on sanitizing his troubled image. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson explains.
For die-hard fans, it's a thriller, a cinematic journey of Michael Jackson's ascent to being crowned the King of Pop, told through some of the biggest songs of all time.
Joy and peace.
Portrayed by his own actual nephew, dazzling supporters still enamored with the legend.
If you're a Michael Jackson fan, it's a must-see.
There were so many moments in that film when everyone in the audience just gasped.
But as we all know, the man is much more complicated.
I call it a feel-good movie for fans. That's really what it is.
Toward the later half of his career in life, Jackson infamously faced a slew of child abuse allegations. Allegations his estate, the co-executors of which are producers on the film, has repeatedly denied. Critics say that chapter of his legacy is notably entirely left out.
It doesn't get into the darker aspects. It completely skips over that. I feel like they're saying like he was never really charged. He never went to prison. You know, this is all, here it is. This is Michael. This is who we loved.
According to a report from Variety, citing sources with knowledge of the production, the original script in several cuts included those darker moments, but was then all scrapped, including any mention of molestation allegations. NBC News reached out to Michael Jackson's estate, his family, and the production team, but didn't hear back. Stars Nia Long and Coleman Domingo addressed some of the criticism, saying the movie is simply meant to serve as an origin story.
I think the film takes place, from the 60s to 1988. So It does not go into the first allegations. We center it on the makings of Michael. So it's an intimate portrait of who Michael is.
But the omission has some critics and fans saying it misses the bigger picture.
It feels like an extraordinarily over-sanitized version of Michael.
It was always going to be a giant music video slapped onto the most commercial, soulless story that you've ever seen.
The stage now set for this weekend as this take on one of the largest legacies in all of music hits the big screen.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Well, school districts across the country are grappling with the question of whether or not students should be able to use AI in any way for their work. Reporter Chris Glorioso of NBC New York visited a school here in Manhattan where the students themselves are weighing in on the guidelines.
What have you heard about AI?
At the Dream Charter School in East Harlem, third graders are not waiting for the grown-ups. This week, they are writing their own rules on AI.
I heard that AI can make fake videos and websites. A lot of people use AI to cheat on their essays or tests.
In this lesson, teachers Cale Blackshear and Rebecca Mapes are encouraging the kids to craft and draft what they think the school's policy should be.
What the final policy should be.
So that machine learning boosts human learning. That means these kids are tackling topics like AI and cheating, how we can know AI results are accurate. And what about AI and privacy?
Because AI can sometimes ask you for personal information.
The world that we live in and the world that they're living in right now growing up, that AI is about to be a big part of their future. So why not go ahead and get ahead of it?
AI is going to start being a big part of our lives.
The third graders in this class wrestling with some of the same questions and doubts that perplex some of the smartest minds in education across the world.
With no evidence for the safety, the effectiveness, or even if they have a positive impact in classrooms.
Wayne Holmes is a professor of artificial intelligence and education at University College London. His research calls on policymakers to resist the narrative that AI is technologically inevitable. And he says so far the evidence is scant that AI helps students learn.
But what I say with complete confidence in my talks is that today we have no independent evidence at scale for the effectiveness of any of these AI tools.
Last year, a survey by Common Sense Media found kids and adults do not agree on whether AI is good for schools, with 52% of young people saying AI should be encouraged on schoolwork, but 52% of parents saying it's unethical to use AI on assignments. In New York City, a coalition of parents has now gathered more than 2,000 digital signatures urging Mayor Mamdani to impose a 2-year moratorium on the use of AI in public schools.
We believe that the role of artificial intelligence in public education spaces needs to be deeply considered, evaluated, and for the time being stopped until really we have evidence that there is no harm done.
Organizer James Baker believes much of the hype around AI derives from education tech companies.
It's about profit. It's about influence. It's about attention.
What if I put a picture of a police officer?
Back at the Dream Charter School in East Harlem, this lesson on AI literacy was designed by Lego Education, a company that sells tech products to schools. A company rep recently addressed the lack of evidence behind learning in AI, writing, "We cannot wait for adult expertise to catch up to the speed of innovation." Dream Charter Schools hopes to have 60% of students using AI as a learning tool, telling News 4 students are already using AI outside the classroom, and waiting for research risks leaving students to figure this out on their own without guidance.
We're still using our own brain power. We still have our kids check their work. We still have our kids do their own critical thinking on their own.
The third graders here seem well aware the grown-ups are still debating the value of AI, but they're also aware AI is very likely to impact their careers one day.
I feel like AI is going to be a really big part of our lives.
That's why they want to get wise about AI now.
Because if you don't, it's not fair.
All right, thanks to Chris Glorioso of NBC New York for that report. Well, more young people are ditching their phones for tech-free social events and what a concept, real-life conversations.
At one club in Brooklyn, partygoers are forced to check their phones at the door and unplug for a couple hours while they dance and connect with others. It comes amid a growing Gen Z movement to get offline and get reacquainted with real life.
Youth mental health reporter for USA Today, Rachel Hale, joins us now with more on this. Rachel, good morning. So we know you went to one of these phone-free parties in Brooklyn for some recent reporting. What was it like? Did anything surprise you?
Yeah, so I'm 24, so this was my first time going to a party without having my phone as that social crutch. And I was surprised by how much it encouraged me to talk to strangers. It was as if this invisible social barrier was kind of lowered for everyone there.
Do we know if an event like this has sort of measurable mental health benefits for young people, or right now is it just more about awareness and just changing the culture?
Right now, it's more about changing that culture and getting people to question things. We do know that nearly 50% of teenagers say that they are online constantly, according to Pew Research. So we have the data on the back end that shows what's driving this change of why some young people are starting to question their relationship to technology. But these types of pop-ups are newer. And for the group that organized this party, they want to see these social gatherings as the next step of this question of how to change the grip that technology has on some young people.
That leads me to my next question, because we said you went to this party in Brooklyn. There's actually also a bar with the same theme in D.C. Are you seeing this pop up more across the country? Do you think it's something that it could be here to stay?
Yeah, we are starting to see this more. I'm familiar with that bar in D.C. that you mentioned. The group that hosted this party, the venue, Telehouse, they started to post through a newsletter instead of posting their events to Instagram. And many of the people who came to this party told me that they found out about it from low-tech newsletters, flyers, and word of mouth. Other Brooklyn clubs like Signal, elsewhere nowadays have started to enact phone-free policies, whether that's on the dance floor or at the whole venue. And in recent years, Andrew Yang's parties through offline have gotten sometimes up to 1,600 RSVPs. So this is definitely not something just in isolation.
Someone has to organize this. Like, you know, you could do it yourself. You could just throw a party and tell people, don't bring your phone, and we can all socialize. But how can people find these parties if they're interested, and do the organizers, what do they want them to get out of it?
Yeah, so I would say you have to be a little bit offline sometimes to find out about these parties, because a big push is that the people planning these don't want you to have to be tapped into Instagram or your social media only to find out about it. So some people told me that they found out about it from flyers that day on the street. Other people through low-tech newsletters or newsletters about things happening in New York, and other people from word of mouth. So I think it's a mix, but people definitely going back to some analog forms of advertisement.
Rachel Hale, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What a fascinating concept.
Exactly.
Let's hang out with each other.
Welcome to my childhood.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We end this hour with a literary icon who is devoted to helping military families. Her work is especially important right now, with no clear end to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and so many parents stationed far away from their families. Best-selling author Tish Rabi, the hand-selected successor of Dr. Seuss, wrote a children's book called Sometimes Apart, Always in My Heart. She wanted to help parents who were deployed make their kids feel a little better about being apart. The book came out last year, instantly became an award winner. It won the Children's Book Gold Award from the Military Writers Society of America. Meanwhile, Rabi herself won the Audrey Geisel Award as a friend of military children. And we are so excited to have Tish Rabi back in studio this morning, back by popular demand, we like to say, because when we had you on earlier this year, people couldn't get enough of your appearance. So
it was a lot of fun.
Again. And this is such an important topic, because with everything that's going on in the world right now, especially in the Middle East, this is really resonating with a lot of military families. Tell us what this book's about and just what you're hearing it means to families right now.
So first of all, April is the month of the military child. We celebrate, military children throughout this month. And I was honored to be asked to write the book for the military child. Sometimes Apart, Always in My Heart, helping military families send love from far away. And I wrote it with United Through Reading, an amazing nonprofit who, for 30 years, has videotaped young parents reading children's books to their kids, right? then they send the video and a copy of the book to every a free copy of the book, new book, to every child. So the kids at home can listen to mommy reading, even if she's in Afghanistan and they're in New Jersey, right? They can hear her read to them every night. And they've been doing this for 30 years. And the work they do is just incredible.
So the kids still get that experience of their parents reading them a book to put them to sleep.
Yes, and so nobody misses story time. And the kids literally, listen to it over and over because they miss their parents so much. So I was honored to be any part of it. And I decided to create the Bear family. And Daddy Bear is on location, military assignment, and he wants his family to know they're, on his mind and in his heart. Oh. And it's also a great way to introduce kids who are about to have their parents leave on what this is like, because, they're both separated. Yeah. And of course, me, I had to write a song.
Of course.
Every book has a song.
Let's get to the song in a moment. Yes. I know that you've interviewed some of the families, and there's a part of the book that really, truly resonates with them most. Talk about that.
What I do before I wrote this book, I interviewed service members, spouses, and kids.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really resonated is what it's like to miss the day-to-day realities of having a family. They miss birthdays. They miss holidays. They miss the births of their children. The guys do sometimes. So it's like, that was really resonated with me. Because if you're not a military family, and I don't come from one, how would you even imagine that? What that's like. The other thing in the back of the book I feel good about is I got tips from the families for other families. So one of the women I interviewed, she said that they put a handprint of her husband on the back door. So when the kids go to school, they give him a high five, even though he's gone for a year or whatever.
What a powerful
So
image.
that was really, really, really nice to add to the book.
Let's talk about the song. Tish is a trained opera singer, so this is going to be good, and I'm not going to sing. But tell us what inspired that, and maybe sing a little bit.
I will, a little bit. So I wrote a march, because I love the way that, the military march rhythm is so cool. And it's sometimes we're not together, but I'm here to say, I'm always thinking of you each and every day. You've got a busy day ahead and I've got mine. It isn't always easy, but we're doing fine. So that's called Love You, Thinking of You, the march. And then I created this adorable little dog.
Yes. Whose name is?
Alaska.
Alaska.
Alaska is named Alaska because a lot of the service personnel train in Alaska. And he's a shelter dog, because a lot of times these families have to leave their dogs behind when they get, when they get,
moving
assigned somewhere else. And he is adopted while Daddy Bear is on location, and he takes care of the family. He's doing his part to serve his country by keeping an eye on the family while Daddy Bear is gone.
I have to imagine those mean so much to the kids, too.
Man. And I wanted them to have something more to hold on. The book is wonderful, but also have a little friend.
We have a little less than a minute here, but
Yes.
talk about just what you've learned talking with families, is the ways that all of us can help military families, especially kids who are dealing with their parents being away for so long.
Yes, two things, big things. One is the kids are often bullied because dad isn't at football practice, mom never is there for the school musical. So we really urge families, when military families are in your community, to help them. They land without knowing where the grocery store is, at a library, at a veterinarian, and also to welcome these kids to school. They're the new kid over and over and over, and we all know what it's like to be a new kid in school.
Yeah.
But for them, it just keeps going and going. So we just urge everybody to be kind and nice to these families who have sacrificed so much for our freedom.
That is such a good lesson, and just a good reminder for all of us to pay attention to
and
that.
the book is on Amazon.
Yes.
And my little dog is on Tish Robbie Books, so he's waiting for you. And we're very, very, very proud.
Well, we are proud of you, and thank you for being on here and for everything you're doing. Tish Robbie, always good to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.